Story recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a drama thriller film called Into the Forest. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Massive power outages have been occurring throughout the west coast of the US due to an unidentified fault in the grid. In a secluded home in the forest, Robert and his daughters, Nell and Eva, are going through their typical routines when the power outage suddenly hits their home. Nell, who was studying for her SAT exam, tries reading books with a battery-operated flashlight, but the battery runs out too, so she heads to the car to grab a headlamp. In the morning, Robert asks his daughters to come with him to town to get some fuel. However, their Jeep wouldn't start because the battery is drained. When Nell turns on the news on her solar-powered radio, they learn that the outage is happening across the region. The report explains that a problem at one power plant had triggered shutdowns across the power grid. Transportation has been crippled because there is no way to operate the subway system and the airports without fuel and electricity. A few days go by. Robert is still looking for a way to get his car running. Nell suggests walking, but Robert tells her that it will take 3 days to reach the nearest town. Eva, who's studying interpretive dance, is left with no choice but to practice without music. Soon, they stop hearing anything from the radio. Robert notices that Nell is still worried about her SAT, so he assures her that she'll pass with flying colors. After 10 days without power, Robert approaches Nell to tell her that he has an idea how to get their Jeep to run. Robert takes the chainsaw apart and removes the chain, so he could use it to get the vehicle's motor going. The girls jump for joy when they hear the engine running. As they pass by the nearest house, Robert notices that their neighbor has left their home. They soon arrive at the store, but the supplies are almost cleared out. As they look at what's left, Stan, the store clerk, pumps his shotgun and asks Robert if he has money. Robert assures him that he's capable of paying for what they need. When Robert asks if he knows where they can get some fuel, Stan tells Robert to go to the back of the store when they're done shopping. Nell reminds Robert that they need an inverter for the solar panels, but Stan tells them that there hasn't been any shipments for some time due to the lack of gas. At the back of the store, Stan sells them a few gallons of fuel. The clerk asks them if they're planning on leaving town, but Robert tells him that they'll wait until the power returns. After leaving the store, Eva attends her interpretive dance class while Nell meets up with her friend Eli. After spending the whole day together, Eli kisses Nell, saying it feels like it's the end of the world. When Robert comes to fetch Nell, she's already too drunk. Before leaving, Eli gives Nell another kiss and tells her that he hopes to see her again the following week. On their way home, Robert notices a car pulled up on the side of the road, so he goes down to see if they need help. When he gets out of his Jeep, one of the men shows off his shotgun, so Robert gets back into his vehicle and drives home. The next morning, Robert tells the girls that they wouldn't be going to town for a while. He asserts that they're safe at home and they have enough supplies. However, Nell gets upset and tells him that she'll drive the Jeep on her own. While chopping wood outside the house, Nell asks Robert if he intends to stay home for the rest of their lives. He assures her that they'll only wait until the power goes back on. Nell is still angry about Robert's decision, so she lashes out at him when he calls her pumpkin. Later, Robert heads into the forest to cut down a tree with a chainsaw. The girls suddenly hear him screaming. When they reach the area, they see a large wound on Robert's leg. Eva quickly applies pressure on the wound while Nell ties a belt around it. Despite their efforts, Robert feels like he's not going to make it, so he encourages the girls to take care of each other. Nell cries as she tells Robert that he's going to be fine, but Robert eventually succumbs to his wounds. The girls lie down beside Robert in the woods until the morning and bury him right on the spot where he died. Back home, Eva, still in shock about the loss of her father, takes a bath to clean up the blood. Nell, on the other hand, tries to hold on to a memory of Robert by smelling a shirt. 2 months after the power failure, the girls' food supply is already running low and they're barely getting by. Eva has since started to suffer from depression and refuses to eat breakfast with her sister. When Eva gets frustrated practicing her dance without music, she asks Nell to fill the generator with gas. She tells Nell that she wants to watch their parents in their home videos and dance with music instead of just hearing the ticks of the metronome. However, Nell stresses that they need the gas for their Jeep. Eva notes that they only need 4 gallons, leaving them with 1 gallon to spare, but Nell insists that they have to save the fuel for an emergency. Feeling disappointed by Nell's refusal, Eva covers her windows with white sheets and refuses to come out of the dance room. The following day, Nell finds out that their chickens have been attacked by wild boars. She tries to inform Eva, but she still refuses to come out. When Eva finally leaves her room, she goes to the kitchen to grab the food and walks away. Nell tries to reason with her, but Eva tells Nell that she clearly doesn't understand how she feels. One night, Nell reaches out for Eva as they sleep, but she finds out that Eva's not there. She runs outside and calls out to her as wild boars roar around her. Eva soon hears Nell crying and wakes her up from her bad dream. As Eva tries to comfort her, Nell tells Eva that she dreamed that the pigs attacked their father and she couldn't find her anywhere. While cleaning up a drawer one evening, Nell finds a plastic Easter egg with a piece of chocolate inside, so she calls Eva, hoping to share it with her. When she doesn't respond, she goes ahead and eats it. As she savors the taste in her mouth, Eva enters the room and begs her to let her use the generator for just 10 minutes. Nell tells Eva that she still can't agree to her request, but she has a surprise that she might like. She shows Eva the plastic Easter egg with 2 pieces of gum, saying she can have both of them. However, Eva soon notices the chocolate wrapper and gets mad at Nell when she hears that Nell already ate it. Nell explains that she didn't think that Eva would mind because she ignored her when she called. As they argue, the girls suddenly hear someone knocking on the door, so they grab a gun and hide. When the knocking continues, Nell uses her low voice, pretending to be a man, to ask who's at the door. She hears Eli answering, so she opens the door. Eli tells them that he was riding his bike on his way to their house, but he got a flat, so he walked. When Eli asks where their father is, Eva tells him that he died in an accident. Eli informs them that people in town are starting to get sick because there's no water filtration. He thought that Nell already died when she stopped coming to town. Nell explains that they couldn't visit the town because they ran out of gas. When Eli asks if they have bicycles, they tell him that their father gave them away to kids at a school. The following day, Nell takes Eli deep into the woods to show him a shed made out of a tree stump. When they reach the shed, Nell takes him inside and makes love to him. When they get back home, Eli plays the harmonica for the girls, but Eva suddenly gets up and leaves the room. Eli thinks that he must have offended her, but Nell explains that Eva will probably practice dancing. Eli wonders why she still does it, given their current situation, so Nell discloses that Eva still looks forward to the audition. Nell points out that she herself feels the need to keep studying. Eli notes that they're just like other people who keep checking their mailbox even when no mail has arrived in town for months. In the morning, Eva asks Nell how long Eli's going to stay with them. She points out that he's eating their food when they're already running out. When Nell asks her why she doesn't like him, Eva ignores the question and warns her not to get pregnant because they can't take care of a baby. While spending time at the shed, Eli tells Nell that electricity has started to come back in the east. He plans to go there and wants to take Nell with him. When Nell asks him why he didn't tell them when he first came to the house, Eli says that he wanted to get to know Nell first and make sure that she's the one he wants to take with him. Nell wants to go, but Eva is skeptical about Eli's plans. She thinks that the journey would take too long because they will be on foot. Eli argues that it's not fair for them if they just wait at home and nothing happens. Eva wants to stay behind, but she tells Nell that she can go if she wants. As Nell and Eli prepare to leave, Eva gives her a gun, but Nell says they already have enough firearms. Nell apologizes for not letting her use the generator. She wishes they could have stayed one more night so they could have a party and watch Eva dance. Nell goes on to tell Eva that she is hoping that they can stick together because they only have each other. Eva stresses that she's always going to be Nell's sister despite their choices. After they leave, Eva practices her dance, but she gets frustrated from being left by Nell, so she throws the metronome. Out in the forest, Nell and Eli decide to rest beside a large tree as it gets dark. When Nell wakes up in the morning, she tells Eli that she can't go with him because she can't leave Eva behind. Before parting ways, Eli kisses Nell and says he will love her however he can. Nell runs back to the house and apologizes to Eva for leaving. As they run low on food, the girls decide to go into the forest to find edible plants. They manage to gather lots of berries, so they dry them out in the sun and put them in jars. Days after Eli left, Nell is delighted to learn that she's on her period. Later that night, she takes a bottle of alcohol and invites Eva to drink. When Eva reminds her that they're supposed to be saving the liquor for childbirth, Nell stresses that no one is giving birth in the house anytime soon. They start drinking from the bottle and decide to turn on the generator for a few minutes. After turning the power on, they sit together and watch their family's home videos. Later on, Nell watches Eva practice her dance with music. When the generator goes out, Nell pours the fuel into another container while Eva is asleep. The following day, Nell leaves the house to gather some blueberries in the woods. While Eva is chopping some wood, a man approaches her. When she turns around, she recognizes him as Stan, the store clerk. Stan tells Eva he was headed north, but he heard her chopping some wood, so he decided to drop by. When Stan notices the wood pile behind Eva, he asks her if she cut it by herself. Eva tells him that her father chopped it. Stan says he wants to talk with her father, so she tells him that he's in the woods and he's coming back any minute. Stan tells her that he's going to stay until her father arrives. As Stan starts walking close to her, Eva holds onto her axe, preparing to defend herself. Before she could move away, Stan suddenly grabs her and throws away her axe. Eva fights back by elbowing him in the gut and kneeing him on the crotch, but Stan manages to get on top of her and pin her down. After striking her in the face, Stan starts removing his pants and forces himself on Eva as she screams. After a while, Stan gets up and leaves her on the ground. As Nell is walking home, she hears Eva screaming, so she drops the berries and runs toward the house. Before she arrives, Stan grabs a gasoline container and steals their car. When she reaches the yard, Nell grabs the axe and looks around for the assailant, shouting that she'll kill him. After making sure that the man has left, Nell takes Eva back to the house and gives her a pill. When Nell tries to comfort her, Eva recoils from her touch. That night, Eva tells Nell that she misses their mother. Nell recalls how fascinated she was watching them dance together because it seemed like she saw double. Nell then confides that she misses their father as well. The next day, the girls start boarding up their entire house. As the days go by, Eva has become even more depressed and has not been eating properly. One day, Nell turns on the generator to cheer up Eva with music. Eva recalls that Stan had stolen their last container of fuel, so she asks Nell where she got it. Nell discloses that she hid a few gallons some days ago. Nell invites her to dance and have some fun, but Eva seems disinterested, so Nell turns the music off. 8 months after the power outage, Nell becomes disgusted with the canned food they usually eat. While searching around the house, Nell finds a note marked pumpkin, so she calls Eva and shows it to her. Nell thinks that it must be special, so she tells Eva that they should read it outside. When they unfold the paper, they realize that it's not a note at all but pumpkin seeds. While Nell is digging up the garden, she hurts her back while lifting a huge rock, so she calls Eva for help. Eva, still traumatized by her experience in the yard, hesitantly runs towards Nell and takes her inside the house. As she massages Nell's back, she starts to cry. She tells Nell that she's afraid because she feels like black waves are swallowing her up. When Eva starts to eat properly again, Nell notices that she feels constantly nauseated. Eva tells her that she's just queasy, but Nell already suspects that she's pregnant, so she starts researching how they could terminate the pregnancy. While she's reading up on the subject, Eva confirms to her that she's pregnant and she wants to keep the baby because she doesn't want to lose anything else. When Nell reminds her how she got pregnant, Eva tells her that the baby has nothing to do with what happened to her. She argues that the baby shouldn't be held responsible for the parents' actions. As the pregnancy progresses, Nell helps Eva with her diet to ensure that the baby is born healthy. She learns that a lack of vitamin B12 may be the cause of Eva's fatigue and nausea, so she goes out to the woods to hunt a wild boar because it is a good source of B12. As she waits for the pigs to arrive, she falls asleep on a branch of a tree. Soon, the sound of the boar awakens her. Nell shoots the animal and falls down from the tree due to the recoil of her rifle. Before getting back up, she runs toward the boar and sees that it's still alive, so she apologizes to the pig before shooting it again. After bringing the wild boar home, she starts skinning it and removing its organs. They separate the animal's fat so they could use it to make soap. When they finally eat it, they're delighted that they get to eat something other than canned food. While relaxing outside the house, Eva tells Nell that her child will become a dancer someday. She lets Nell feel the baby kicking in her womb. Nell tells her that the baby could be female, but Eva is convinced that her child will be a boy, so they make a bet. One evening, Eva suddenly smells something outside while they eat dinner. Nell suspects that it's a phantom smell caused by her pregnancy, but Eva says that it smells like smoke coming from outside the house. Nell takes a brief look outside and finds nothing. Eva fears that Stan might be camping near their house, but Nell says she doesn't think he'll return. As the girls are sleeping, they are suddenly awakened by a loud noise inside the house. When Nell gets up to investigate, she finds that a beam had collapsed. Eva suddenly feels contractions as more parts of their house fall, so she tells Nell that they should get out of the house. Nell and Eva walk to the shed in the woods so she can give birth there. Upon their arrival, Eva starts to feel more contractions. Not long after, Eva starts to feel the baby coming out, so Nell prepares to take the infant. Later, Nell tells Eva that she was right about giving birth to a boy. When they get inside the house, Eva notices the smell of black mold. She tells Nell that she can't raise the baby in their house because it's not safe. Eva takes the fuel they have left and tells Nell that she wants to use it because she won their bet. Eva tells Nell that she will use the gas to burn their house down because it's already falling apart. Eva explains that someone would eventually come looking for them. If they leave, someone will move into the house, but if they burn it, people would think that they died in the fire. Eva points out that the house is rotting and it's impossible for them to fix the roof. Nell worries about starting a forest fire, but Eva assures her that it's too wet because of the recent rains. Eva further notes that humans haven't lived without electricity for a long time, so she argues that they'll be able to survive out in the woods. Soon, Nell agrees with Eva, but she takes some time to look at the pictures of her family before they burn their house. Later on, Eva douses the house with gasoline after they take some essential items. Nell then lights up the fire and hesitantly throws it into the house. After watching the house for a while, they walk to the woods to find a way to survive outside of their home.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.